Welcome to SEC Football Live here on the 440 Sports Network, brought to you by ML Rose and all good, important local small businesses in the community after the last week we've had. That is Trey Wallace, Outkick, of course. Make sure you go check out Trey at outkick.com and all of his work, of course, across the socials as well. I am Braden Gall. You can follow us as well. If you're watching on YouTube, please thumbs up, notifications turned on. If you're watching on Twitter, if you're watching on Facebook, please share the product. Tell people to jump on in. We're going to talk early rankings strategies and why last year is the only thing any media company seems to see about our preseason rankings. I have a question about Kirby Smart's philosophy and, of course, the nouveau chic recruiting wars in 2026, which is a 9.5-minute press conference calling out a direct coach and agent and general manager about a specific player with a timeline delivered as only Dabo Swinney can in an almost impossible to follow way. Trey, how are you, sir?
I'm good. Could be better, but I have seen some things, and thank goodness I knew what was coming in a sense when Dabo was holding that press conference last week. And also, I love the fact that Clemson put it on their premium network subscription channel, but then really all you had to do was click the play button and it would play. So they didn't make any money off of it. So the whole darn thing was just wild to me. But cool, man. If you're going to throw massive stones from a glass house, better make sure you're buttoned up.
So that's kind of what I want to talk about here. Part of me. And again, we are ML Rose, great local business in Nashville, Tennessee. But more importantly, they're amazing partners that they have, Trey. The beer partners in Middle Tennessee. People need to go to breweries. They need to go drink good, delicious beers, most of which you can get in ML Rose. But East Nashville Beer Works, Yazoo Brewing Company, Tennessee Brew Works, you got Jackalope, you got Black Abbey, all amazing local Nashville breweries that are all available at ML Rose, but you can go to their tap rooms. People need to get out and be in community, not only in 2026, but also because I am currently in Lebanon, Tennessee at my parents' house who are out of town. We have no power for 3 straight nights at my house. It was down to 41 degrees at my home. And that's not to say that I'm in trouble here. I don't need all y'all's well wishes or whatever. There are lots of people who do. So thanks to the line workers that are working their butts off to get the power up in Nashville and all over the Southeast. But more importantly, that's like a week of lost business for a lot of small businesses, including breweries and ML Roses and those kind of places. So wherever you are, please go support them. Go out and spend a few bucks at those locations over the course of the next couple of weeks. They will be so grateful. They need a little boost of business. And if you love a place like a brewery in your community, not only is it good for you to go spend time in community drinking beer with each other, there's science behind this, by the way. I've done the research. Also, it'll help keep that business going and available for you down the road. So go support good local business in Nashville. For me, that's ML Rose. That's local breweries. So go support those places as well. Okay, got that out of the way.
Might as well get liquored up or beered up.
Dude, I was doing dry January, and then I wasn't.
No, dude. I mean, I had a little brother in Nashville that they were sending me pictures. I mean, I got family all in Nashville. Man, they were sending me pictures from the basement and running generators out of a kid's playhouse outside the window. Look, man, I give credit to my little bro because one of my little bros, he was prepared because we grew up in hurricane country. So my dad taught us all about generators growing up and how to wire, whatever. He got out of town. He went south to Birmingham, and
it's like a country. That's a country song right there, by the way.
He got out of town. I got another cousin who literally is sitting in Goulitsville right now, and his house is 43 degrees, but he just shipped the kids off somewhere else so he could protect the house. It's wild in Nashville right now. There's other places too.
Yeah, it was up to 230,000. Not that folks outside of Nashville need to hear all of this, but 230,000+ people, houses and businesses without power. It's still at 130,000 people without power. People are working 16-hour shifts to get these electrical wires back up and running and power up and running to everybody.
I got a buddy that's a lineman and doing it right now. He was telling me folks need to chill out. They're trying.
Yeah, they are. And I talked to one that was on our street. We got power back for an hour. My wife got a shower. The kids got showers. I had not showered yet, and the power went right back out again. I was like, oh, God damn it. Pardon my language.
Get the water bottles and the hotel shampoo out.
Well, and I had fire. We have a fireplace. We had a gas stove, so we can cook soup and keep the fire going. And then got out of there after 2 nights of 42 degrees and 2 kids in the bed. And my wife's like, Braden, we're not doing this again. So luckily, my folks are about 45 minutes away. So we went to their house for the night. It was nice and warm last night. But there are a lot of folks that don't have power, don't have food, don't have access to heat. And there's a lot of people out there, small businesses that are doing everything they can to feed these people and keep them warm. So just if you see somebody, give some help, give some shout outs and see what you can do for all of them. But yeah, there was a guy who showed up at my street and he was like, hey, I was like, oh, it's sure good to see you. And he starts laughing. I was like, I bet. And I go, how long you been working? He goes, about 10 hours. I go, when are you done? And it was 4.5 hours later. Like it was all day, cold, 10-degree weather, chainsawing trees, working on the lines up in the box. Like not a fun job. So shout out to all the linemen.
It ain't getting any better either because you got darn Arctic winter blast coming in this weekend.
And this is I know. And this is a perfect segue. Eddie's comments here, and I'm not picking on you, Eddie, but this is a perfect segue into what we're going to talk about with Ole Miss and Clemson, which is misinformation. Eddie says, yeah, if only NES would pay union prices, they could get some more help. That's a total fabrication. That is a misinformation that's been spread through social media. The most shared image of Nashville over the course of this is a AI generated image that's clearly fake, but everybody sees it and nobody knows what's the truth. My point is we have Ole Miss and Clemson, and now we are in the age of misinformation where Dabo can come out and say whatever he wants. I have no idea.
Right.
Verifying every single detail and timestamp that he gave in that press conference. We can't rehash it here. But at the end of the day, it's hard to know what's real. It's hard to know what's true. And even if everything Dabo said is true, it's hard to know that if anybody is everybody doing this stuff. My instincts are that everybody's doing this stuff, maybe not as explicitly and as directly as Ole Miss. Is anybody shocked that Ole Miss is doing this more than anybody else? But honestly, here's the thing. You said glass houses about Clemson. I don't know if Dabo's doing all that stuff.
No. I'm just saying, like in general, like it's hard to throw stones from a glass house in general. So I would imagine Clemson was buttoned up when it came to nobody's going to be able to come at them and say, hey, you were doing this and this and this. That's why Dabo was able to come out last week and do all of that. First off, it's because he doesn't dabble in the portal very often, no pun intended or anything like that. Second of all, when you're only signing like 3 transfer portal players, I don't think you're having to worry about, tampering and texting people in class. And by the way, like his evidence that he had, because he laid it out like he was a trial lawyer and
a bad trial lawyer.
Yes,
it was hard to follow.
Statement
honestly.
To the jury, but the way that he had it down, I'll tell you where he got the quotes from. Those are all text messages from the assistant coaches to Luke, the player, and Farrelly, and the agent. Now, they don't have the text messages from Luke, the agent, to Ole Miss, but they got them from them to Clemson. And then the conversation that he brought up with Austin Thomas, I promise you that was recorded. And that's how he knows exactly what was said on that call.
How about this? Give us can you do the entire thing in like 3 sentences?
The whole press conference?
Could you do the whole gist of the story in like 4 sentences? See if you can do it in 4 sentences. I'll even let you take your time on this.
Clemson reaches out to Luke Farrelly, gets him on campus for a visit. He commits. They agreed to an NIL deal. Clemson was dumb enough not to have him sign the NIL deal and thought the scholarship papers were the only thing that mattered. Ole Miss came in knowing they didn't have an NIL deal signed, took him, got him enrolled at Ole Miss before the semester started. Bingo. Okay. Dabo Swinney, in my opinion, screwed up because he doesn't know the portal well enough and didn't have an NIL signed agreement. That's why. And here's the capper.
Okay.
Ole Miss owes Clemson nothing.
Yeah, that's where he screwed up. Because you're going to lose players to bigger bids. But you got to
get $300K, $400K.
You got to get something in return for the trouble. So you're how would you did Ole Miss do anything wrong in your opinion?
not in this. I want to say not in this era, because technically the portal was still open and Luke Farrelly signed financial aid scholarship agreement. Now, 5 years ago, if you had already signed with a school scholarship papers and whatnot, that'd have been it. But we're in an era now where you're signing contracts, revenue share contracts, money contracts. And so, look, do I think Ole Miss did some shady shit? Yes. You don't, if it's true, you don't send a picture to the player with a $1 million contract and all. Like, that's some shady shit. Like,
But is it different than just using the words or just saying, "Hey, we'll pay you more,"
no,
or texting the agent and saying, "We'll pay you $2 million over 2 years," or what? Is it really that different? Isn't that just a negotiation?
No, and that's why I think Ole Miss screwed up, because technically once he signs with the school, and I'm talking about scholarship papers and whatnot, and he's enrolled in class and he's going to class, he's working, you're done with the portal. That's it. You're out of the portal.
He should be.
Should be, correct. But the fact that you got that far, and then here's the other thing really chapped my ass, and it's not talked about enough. And all this is alleged, but if it's true, the agent in this sitting there using the text message evidence as leverage to get another million in another year on a deal.
So man, gross.
Kiss
so gross.
My ass, dude.
But par for the course with agents. Like, that's what agents do. Is they are slimy. They're like lawyers and agents. They all do the same.
And I'm not saying Ryan Williams, the agent. I'm not. Look, if the evidence points towards it, okay, buddy, I find that shady. Like,
hey, I'm going to turn. Doesn't it also hurt the agent's business? Like with Ole Miss in theory, like, hey, I'm going to turn these folks in if y'all pay me more. Which,
that's
again,
why you had to make sure he was going to get a couple $100,000 bonus for getting this new deal signed.
Yeah. I mean, look, here's the thing. Doesn't this just fall into the same exact bucket that we are using to describe 2026 college football player roster management? Doesn't this just fall into it's another example and another thing that we can add to the case to add a centralized governing body to the sport? The Big Ten, we talked about it a couple weeks, Big Ten and SEC, incapable of coming up with an agreement to have a postseason structure.
Yeah.
Roster management, we are incapable of all these teams playing by the same rules. Like, I think what Kirby is doing at Georgia is fascinating. Just on like I can't wait to see if like the best recruiting class of high school players in the modern era from 3 years ago that are all going to be third-year players this year coming up in 26 can compete with like the Texas of the world, which is going through the portal. Like, I can't wait to see if the best coach of our era post Nick Saban, which is Kirby Smart in my opinion, and Georgia, can do it the old school way. Like, it's fascinating to me. It's super interesting, but we can't operate in it's just another example where we cannot operate with different rules for everyone all the time. And I realize some of old college football, the way you and I grew up watching this sport in the 90s and 2000s, where like the imperfections and the idiosyncrasies are kind of what made it charming and cool and fun. And we knew that Alabama was playing by slightly different rules than somebody else. Like, I'm not saying that's a new thing, but in this era where we now can have Indiana's win championships and Ole Miss compete for playoff spots and all these new things that we can see in college football, like, it's just it's frustrating it's another piece of evidence that tells us we are headed towards some centralized governing body. And outside of Congress, I don't know how we get there. But it's just like, we can't have this stuff. Like, it's funny for us to watch Dabo do a press conference, but we can't have this stuff.
No, and we're gonna get to a point where there's gonna be a CBA. Like, we're getting there.
Yeah.
We're getting there. It's gonna happen. I think that it's like I brought up, like, and you know this, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, before the Jimbo Nick Saban spat, again, you signed scholarship papers and financial agreement papers with a school, it's done. You wrapped up. The portal shit is done. Like, and I get where the portal was at back then, blah, blah, blah. Not really around. But you're not getting poached from another school. Nowadays, it don't matter if you sign financial agreement papers, or scholarship papers, or if you go to class for a week with the school, you can still get poached. And so, and here's the other thing in my eyes. if Pete Golding was doing what Pete Golding was doing, which is what it is. If you're texting, blah, 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 whatever. Somewhere along the lines, he had to think to himself, okay, what I'm doing is not illegal, or I'm not going to get hammered, but what he did was he pissed off the wrong coach in the wrong era who has not fully grasped the transfer portal and is obviously getting some very interesting advice from his coworkers at Clemson, because the first thing that I would have said to Dabo Swinney, and the first thing his GM probably should have said, and maybe they did, whatever, and maybe they're still working on a deal, get the rev share agreement signed. Once that's done, technically it will be a wrap, unless the school, which Lane Kiffin has done multiple times now with Ole Miss players, where you got to go pay a buyout. And then you're tied to the school. It just, that's where it's different.
So like, let's think through the PR comm strategy of this for a second, because that is clearly what Dabo was playing. He was playing a public scrutiny, public pressure. We're going to do this whole, because the NCAA has literally almost no power in all of this.
No, they're going to suspend Pete Golding for one game, or they're going to give him probation. That's what's going to happen.
Right. So there is no lesson here to not do what Ole Miss and Pete Golding was doing. I think unfortunately, and this is not fair to Dabo, but this is kind of the bet he's made for himself, which is, had this been somebody else, like had this been somebody more modern, right? If this been Dan Lanning, let's say, that did this, Dan Lanning, who uses all the portal stuff, who does all the poaching both positively and negatively, right? Loses players, gains players. If it's somebody that was considered sort of somebody who's like embraced the modern rules of college football, I think we would probably, like, the message would land and hit harder. Yeah. I think with Dabo, there's a lot of people that and I may be one of them to some degree, where I have this, like, oh, come on, Grandpa. Like, there's just this whole, like I've been in the NIL business for years, the name, image, and likeness of Jesus Christ. Like, come on with that. It's so tone deaf. Now, he's right about this. Like, I think it's awful that you could have a player on campus, have him enrolled in class, and have him sign scholarship papers, and then lose him a week later to another team because they're texting him during classes. Like, I think that's kind of shitty. So I technically agree with him, but the way he goes about doing this stuff does not win him any favors. And so I'm curious, like, what's the actual repercussion of this? Or is this just pulling back the curtain on what it is everywhere? This is modern college football recruiting wars in 2026. This is what it is.
Also, I go back to the agent too. He's not going to be scot-free in all of this. Like, I'm not saying he gets punished or anything, but he took a PR hit as well because Dabo decided to put him on blast along with Ole Miss.
True, but I always say this to fans about, like, players hold. I always say this about players holding out.
If it's true, by the way. Yeah.
If it's true. Fans are always like, man, I can't believe so-and-so's holding out. Or they sit out bowl games. Let's use that one as an example. Yes. Oh, players sit out bowl games. He's leaving his team behind. He's not doing it for his teammates. And what's hilariously ironic to me about that is that the people that support the person sitting out of the bowl game the most are the teammates. And so while the agent might take some public flack, or maybe coaches don't like working with him, you know who's going to be really interested to work with the guy? Players, because they're like, oh, this guy is ruthless. Like, he doesn't give a shit. He's going to get me $2 million. So while he might take a hit publicly and it doesn't look good or whatever, but he could turn around and take that's street cred for recruits who want to make more money.
Bro, he got Luke Ferrelli. I don't know how much. I don't want to put out how much Clemson's original offer was, but let's just say he got him a $2 million deal at Ole Miss.
Right.
I mean, well done, brother. Like, and if you want to act like the funniest,
like, fans think Scott Boras is terrible. You know who likes working with Scott Boras and who's the NFL one? Why am I drawing a blank on
Rosenhaus?
Rosenhaus. Fans think that these people hate these agents. You know who likes working with the agents? Teams. Yeah. Teams, because they're like, this is no nonsense. This is going to be business all the way. It's not personal.
I take him as my agent right now.
I interrupted you. So
in a heartbeat. You know, he can handle my upcoming negotiations this summer if they want to. What? That'll be fun. I think that where Dabo screwed up, in my opinion, was the guy that it's 11 o'clock at night and the noise curfew started at 10:59, and he decided, okay, I'm going to go out here and yell at everybody on the street because you're a minute late to the party, or I just want to be the regulator of everything. Like think about the PR that Dion that Dabo was dealing with at the end of the 2025 season, and now all of a sudden, what was it? 3 weeks into January, he's trying to rally, like he's the Batman Crusader against college athletics. Sorry, man. Shit's been going on. And are we going to sit here and act like Dabo wasn't paying players at Clemson underneath the table?
He's the wrong messenger for this. If Kurt Signetti comes out next year and is like, man, I'm sick and tired of this, people will all be like, oh, we love this idea. This is a great idea. Whatever Sig wants, Sig gets. Google it.
And so that's why I think that, and I get why Ole Miss fans are agitated, because you're like, oh, why the Clemson coach is coming after us? He's putting on us. But wait a minute, look at all that Lane's doing down at LSU. I got news for you. Ole Miss is getting paid because of what Lane's doing with Ole Miss players.
And Lane did all the same stuff at Ole Miss. Like, again, are we surprised? Here's what's fascinating about this. If I had told you, hey, Trey, one coach is going to put another coach on total blast for tampering and breaking the rules, and then I give you all the details, right? And I say, tell me which coach is on either end of this spectrum. It would not have taken you 5 guesses to get to Dabo Swinney and Ole Miss. No. It's the most predictable, dynamic, and kind of rivalry in the history of Southern sports in football and recruiting. It's the most predictable thing ever.
The funniest part about it all, 3 weeks ago, we were all losing our minds because Damon Williams was leaving Washington, and technically there was supposedly some tampering going on from Lane Kiffin at LSU. Like, what if Jed Fish had come out and blasted Lane Kiffin the same way Dabo was blasting Pete Golding at Ole Miss?
We would have been like, and?
Right. I'd be like, okay. Like, this stuff happens.
Right. I hear you. It's the wrong messenger because Dabo has sort of lost brand equity around this
time
subject.
You announced Chad Morris as your damn OC. It's like, God, you just picked the worst.
What has Chad Morris been doing?
I have no idea. Like hanging out with his kid,
coaching high school offenses. What is he doing?
I have no idea.
All right.
Welcome back.
I want to spin this forward quickly because we're gonna have a shorter show today. I want to spin this forward quickly to sort of early rankings, and I just had a comment that I wanted to run by you. I worked at Athlon Sports for 17 years. We did this, and we tried really, really hard to take, and honestly, it was a different era. Like back in 2009, 10, 11, 12, when we're putting the magazine together, you could look at depth charts, and you could see who was coming back from last year's team, and they were more predictable about who was going to be good and who was going to be bad. And so I'm not as, like, I don't think we did it wrong necessarily, but as it got into the portal era in the last 5 years, we were still kind of playing by the old prognostication rules, which is he who was good last year shall be good again next year. And I'm very frustrated by that now in the modern era because rosters change so much and we know less about these teams in July than we ever do, including the coaches. And so
you're not going to learn a damn thing from spring football either. So
no, of course not. So I see all these early rankings all across the web. Every entity has to do it for the clicks.
I agree.
And Texas and Georgia are basically in the top 3, top 5 nationally, 1 and 2 in the SEC in some order. I don't necessarily disagree with those two being at the top.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking at it as we go, so you keep going. Yeah.
A&M and Oklahoma are kind of that next tier with Lane Kiffin, LSU getting a bump, and then Ole Miss still there, but maybe down a notch, but kind of in that same like top 15 territory. So basically the top 6 are the exact same top 6. Everyone's knocking Vandy down. At least that's okay. I have no problem with that. Alabama and Tennessee are kind of in that mix. Guess where they finished? About in that mix last year. You look at the top 8 teams in the SEC, and it's all exactly the same in roughly the same order as it ended. And we all know that's not going to be the way it ended. Now, I like when you look at these teams and you see Arch Manning and Gunnar Stockton and Marcel Reed, and you see Sam Leavitt going to LSU, one of the top transfers. You got Ole Miss, you got Alabama. Like they do have the best quarterbacks outside of Tennessee and maybe Alabama. They got the best quarterbacks.
I'm looking at some, yeah.
So I'm not opposed to saying, hey, he who has the best quarterback shall win the most games. I'm not opposed to that. Also, Ole Miss almost made it to the national championship game with a backup quarterback at the start of the year. So I
agree.
We don't know about this stuff. My point is I'm always frustrated by these lists because they're just basically replications of how the end of the season is. But I am really interested in the Texas v. Georgia thing from what we just got done talking about, which is Kirby took what, 3 portal or what, like 5 portal players or 9 portal players, like what, not even 10 total portal players. He's still building.
It was under 10. Yeah.
He's still totally building through recruiting. You now have Texas going the opposite direction, going full on Ohio State and Oregon and trying to, they went out and got elite running backs and elite receivers and, all this stuff. These two are sort of at the top, it feels like, to some degree. I am fascinated to see if Kirby Smart's strategy and philosophy still works in the modern era of college football, because I can feel it in my brain, Trey, looking at these depth charts going, stability and development should become an asset. It should. Somebody being in the program for 3 years should become valuable to somebody, because everyone else is trying to put it all together every single year with portal players. No?
Well, I'll give you no, I don't disagree, and I'll give you another example too. What was the big conversation regarding like Tennessee with Josh Heupel in the quarterback spot? It was, let's go find this transfer portal player, but at the same time, you had George McIntyre that's been on campus for 2 years, going on 2 years now. Brandon Faison's coming in. So, but it's always about, I'm not trying to single out Heupel here because Kiffin's doing the same damn thing and others are. But what I'm saying is that we've moved away from the development of high school players. First off, you can't pay a kid $2 million to sit on the sideline any longer. You can't afford it. Nico. And yes, they tried.
But wouldn't they be better off right now if Nico was the quarterback at Tennessee? Wouldn't they be better off today? They'd be better off today.
I think they would be fine if Joey Aguilar wins his case and he's the quarterback.
I think here this is a great example of this.
I don't think Nico fit Tennessee's offense, but that's just my personal opinion.
But he 10 games in a playoff spot. Last year, Aguilar was probably better. Although I think at the beginning of the year, Aguilar was definitely better. By the end of the year, I think Nico was better. I think this year they'd be better with Nico.
Agreed.
Versus anything they're going to run out there now. So like this is what old college football was.
Yes.
Hey, we're good 1 year, then we have to rebuild and kind of develop the next year, and then that development leads to success the following year.
Yes, and
Kirby is trying to do that.
Right, and if Kirby can pull this off, I think it establishes something over the next few years about how important high school recruiting still is in this day and age. I know everyone tries. I'm not trying. When I say everyone, I'm not trying to throw everyone, but you try to go get the quick fix. And the quick fix you think is going to be able to, okay, thanks other school for developing this guy for 2 years. We're going to take him now and we're going to move on. That's what the transfer portal is nowadays, and that period. But at the same time, you have to wonder where the high school recruiting part comes into this. Like, Michigan throwing in Bryce Underwood last year. They weren't going to sit around and just let him, collect a check and then go out there and play his sophomore year. They threw him into the fire.
Yeah, you got to develop him as fast as possible.
You got to develop as fast as possible. And you got to figure, and also some schools have the opportunity because of what they've done in previous years to be able to have these high schoolers sit on the bench and learn, get some reps in on the 2 deep, and whatnot, and move forward. I am curious, like you said, can the Kirby Smart trend continue? And by the way, Dabo's trying to do the same thing. I just, I'm not going to compare Dabo and Kirby right now with their rosters. I just feel like if we stay on this path, Braden, when it comes to the high school part and what Kirby's doing, if he pulls this off, it's going to be fascinating to me to see what the repercussions are when it comes to other teams trying to do it in the future.
Yeah.
Because there's still a shitload of 5-star talent that are really good that can play immediately in the freshman year.
Yeah.
Maybe they're not might not be as many nowadays, but there are a lot of talented players out there that come in and contribute in year one.
Yeah.
Kirby's just had the ability to not stockpile, but be able to wait a minute because he's developing other high school players.
I mean, even if you take 30 players a year in the portal, that's still another 55 that you have to recruit through high school on your roster. Yeah. So the question is, how many of your, let's call it the top 40, top 45, you're 2 deep, are you developing over time versus are you filling in gaps? And I do think while Indiana is the the trend breaker in all of this.
Which I love, by the way.
I still think if you look at Ohio State's championship and you look at the championship, I mean, Georgia famously in 22 didn't take a single portal player.
No.
Like famously did that.
And beat the dog shit.
Michigan, most of Michigan's national championship team was recruited by Harbaugh and developed and then retained through money and NIL, but retained. So you can look at these championships, and outside of Indiana, even in the last 5 years, it's still teams that are built mostly through recruiting. So the question is does Indiana then represent something new? As we've said all along, I think Cignetti is one of one. I don't know who can replicate him automatically. But like Dan Lanning in Oregon's another good one. I think Texas this year is going to be an interesting one. If A&M takes a major step forward, then that's going to be because they are, great portal class for Elko this year, but also great recruiting and development coach. So I think he's going to kind of fit that. I guess maybe my point is I think you still have to do both. I still think you have to recruit a base roster that is good enough to fill in gaps where a portal player doesn't work or where you lose someone to the portal. You still have to have kind of a foundation of recruits, and then you put on top of it a quarterback and a bunch of great portal players, and you can win championships.
The stat that stood out to me, too, was Indiana, out of their 22 starters, 15 of their players had played 3+ years of college football.
That's old, yeah.
Right. So what I'm getting at,
wives and children.
And also, Kurt Cignetti brought 13 players from James Madison with him that he recruited to James Madison out of high school and whatnot. So, I mean, you can tie that into everything that was going on with Indiana. And so, sure, they went out in the portal and they got their quarterback for next year in Josh Hoover. Last year, they got Fernando Mendoza.
Curtis Rourke was a portal
Rourke, right, exactly. So they're finding key spots. But what they're also doing is, like you're talking about, when you only go out and you maybe land 8 to 10 transfer portal players and you've already got a stockpile of what you've done through the high school part of it, that's where I'm fascinated, like you were talking about with Kirby, to see if this can play out for other schools down the road as well.
I'm also curious, did Jackson Dart play 3 years or 2 years? Was it just 2 years? But the other thing is
2 years. I want to say 2.
There's also something different about portaling a quarterback every single year, a guy who's a 1-year stopgap, versus going to get a guy, and this is maybe a little bit older, a guy is a freshman, he's a 5-star, he goes to a school, he doesn't start right away, but he's kind of looking to get out. Maybe it doesn't fit his personality, maybe he doesn't love the coaching staff or the scheme or the community or the whatever. It could be anything.
Nico.
After 1 year, well, that was 2 years technically, but after 1 year, you transfer, and then you go to your second school, and you're there for multiple seasons. And that is even slightly different than just going to get the 1-year rental every year, where you're having to train him up, and if he's good enough, it doesn't matter. I thought Dart played for 3 years, said Eddie. I thought he did
it might have been 3.
Because I think of Matt Corral, and I'm like, Jackson Dart is just the next step from Matt Corral. He just happened to start his career at USC for a year.
Right. Okay. It was 3, but I don't disagree with you, but also you look at it as well. There are only certain spots on the field where you're going to get 1-year rentals. If you look at the past 3 Indiana teams, their starting quarterbacks have been transfer portal players. So what I'm kind of saying is certain schools have the ability to pick and choose how they roll with the portal compared to high school and how many key spots they want to go do. And so I think that you're seeing some take advantage of it. But damn, dude, we can't get away from high school recruiting because I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to go have them go to JUCO or my school, South Alabama, for 2 years, and then they get bumped up?
Stetson Bennett style?
Yeah.
All right, so if Texas and Georgia are the top tier, A&M, Oklahoma, LSU, Ole Miss, Alabama, Tennessee, does that sound like the next tier? So what I'm curious about
South Carolina.
What I'm curious about is who is the team that jumps up from that unnamed group of teams, which I guess would be Missouri, Kentucky, South Carolina, Vanderbilt. You got Mississippi State. You got Florida, who I think is going to be improved, but maybe not good enough yet. Who am I missing there? I think that's 6 to go with. Maybe I don't know who I'm missing, but who is Arkansas? Is the other one?
Tennessee.
Who are the teams that are not in that list of top 8 or 10 teams that are going to be ranked in everybody's preseason top 25? Who are the teams who's the one that you like the most to jump in and maybe do the Vanderbilt thing or that style of season for 26?
Set myself up for this again, but
South Kakalaki.
Yeah, that's where I was going. Yeah,
I mean, that's where I would go to. Quarterback,
it's a
investment in the
redo.
offensive line. Yeah.
You got your defensive stud back. You added on that side of the ball, the defensive side. You got your receivers down. Like I think South Carolina's won.
I agree.
I think Florida is going to be good in the future. I think John Summerall can build. It's not going to be this year. I would say I can't put A&M in there.
No, the A&M's the top. They're preseason top 10 by everybody.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's
no.
Arkansas.
It's Florida, Missouri, Kentucky, South Carolina, Vanderbilt, Mississippi State, Arkansas.
You know what? I'll say. I thought Missouri did really well in the portal. Let's see if Austin Simmons can stay healthy. They got Caden Lee at wide receiver.
Auburn. Lost their best players and hired a coach nobody else wanted.
God love you, Auburn fans. Just have patience. Maybe it works out. Maybe it doesn't.
I like Alex Golesh. He's fine, but I don't think he. I think the job might be too chaotic and too big for him. But
Alex is a good coach. I'm just curious to see how Alex reacts. You know, second week of the season when the booster club calls him and needs him to come over.
Das Vidania, Alexi.
Yeah. We're going to need you to come to this booster club meeting. I know you have film right now. I know you're not on the golf course, but no.
What is Hugh Freeze doing right now? What is he doing? Where is he?
He's preaching.
No, like actually?
He did like
that's how he talks normally. So I don't.
He did a guest sermon down at Auburn 2 weeks ago. I think he's on like this. I'm being dead serious.
Does he water ski naked?
I don't know. I know I'm about tired of my girlfriend logging on to TikTok and all I see is his daughter on there talking about how great it is to live in Dallas and
baby Billy.
Hey,
Eli, I gotta make me some money. I'm gonna be famous, Eli.
Hugh will get back in the game once Butch Jones is fired by Arkansas State.
Arkansas State, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
I know.
All right. Go support good local business, everybody.
I didn't.
Go support Trey Wallace. Go read his stuff at outkick.com and follow him on the socials. Please listen to all the other great shows across the 440 Sports Network if you care about Nashville sports stuff that's going on with the Preds, with Nashville SC, with the Titans, the coaching search, Senior Bowl, NFL Draft, SEC, you name it. Support good local businesses, including ML Rose and all the great breweries in Middle Tennessee. Really good quality products, and it's actually good for your health to go to a tap room and have a beer with your friend. It's so good for your health. I'm not even kidding about this.
I have a question for you on the way out, and I agree with everything. Go to your tap room, get all your beers, go to ML Rose, get the wings. Is Trinidad Chambliss granted his 6-year by court system? And since we're doing this live,
you're the court reporter on the show.
I know that, but I'm asking you. He's going in front of the NCAA committee is holding their hearing today, their second hearing regarding his waiver. Here's the question. Do you think the NCAA grants him the medical waiver to avoid the court hearing that's upcoming in 2 weeks, or do they go to court and he wins it that way?
I think it's a medical thing because that's why you can grant him the eligibility. And if you grant him, like the NCAA has lost every single one of these when it comes to this.
Tom Barnes is going to walk into that Oxford courtroom looking like Matlock with a bow tie on and a straw hat, and he's going to convince those jurors like a John Grisham book.
I was going to say like a Grisham novel. That's what I was going to say. Is it time to kill the NCAA?
We're getting close, Charles Bediaco.
Oh my God. Anyway,
well tied, buddy. You're cleared to play.
And then they still went and got beat, right? A first commenter of the show mentioned that back at the very, very beginning of the show. Bama, says Nate. Bama blatantly cheats to bring. They didn't cheat. They didn't cheat at all. Blatantly cheats to bring a 7-footer and still can't beat the Vols in basketball. Here's the deal. It sounds and feels gross what Ole Miss did to Clemson and kind of what Dabo did in the press conference, what Alabama did to bring a professional basketball player to their team. It feels gross. It feels wrong. It doesn't feel right. And if your team was doing it, you'd be all for it. So I don't want to hear selective moral outrage from people, okay? If this player was coming to Tennessee fans would be all for it. Oh, we didn't break the rules. We're just following NIL. We're just following eligibility.
Pavia was your quarterback last year. You'd be kissing his ass every week and going to battle for him.
Joey Aguilar is older than Diego Pavia. That's the end. That's the end of the show. For Trey, I'm Braden. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next time.